For Session Daily Updates, I'm Sarah Allen. The House floor session is anticipated to begin soon. Let's take a look at what's expected to be addressed before we join members gathering for session.
The House will come to order. Prayer by the chaplain.
O Lord our God, we give you thanks for life, family, and for the privilege to serve in the Minnesota House of Representatives. Thanks for the grace given to many who serve here, healing from illness, protection and nurturing of children, divine wisdom when facing decision, reconciliation of important relationships, the rescue from financial burdens. Thank you for blessing Speaker Dowd and all who serve in this place. We know that it is your will that this body serves the common good of those who live, work, and play here in the state of Minnesota. I ask that you allow them to agree upon the many problems faced in this state. Give uncommon agreement in this House among the elected, and guide them to plans and policies that solve the great problems of Minnesota. Lead us, dear God, to redemption and dignity for everyone in this state, a redemption that transcends our various differences, racial, ethnic, gender, nationality, orientation, economic, and every other difference that divides us. Use each of us, dear God, those elected and appointed in government, and everyone else in the state, to bring each of us to a place of dignity. Forgive us for past mistakes and help us to forgive those who have wronged us and give us the uncommon grace to serve their interests still. Guide us through days and months ahead that we will not allow personal interests to dim our view of that which is right and godly. During this election cycle, please protect each of those who are running for office from harm and keep them from doing harm to others, and especially keep them from harming this state and those they have sworn to protect. Give them a commitment to serve people and put the interests of people first. In a time when polarization is on the rise, I ask that you bring this body together so that it can serve the people of this state and reflect a godly goodness long forgotten. We know, dear God, that you are exalted. Help us to strive for your wisdom, so lift us to a place of divine grace. In the name of our Lord, amen.
The chaplain for today is Reverend Paul Slack from New Creation Church, Minneapolis, Minnesota. Pledge of Allegiance. Please remain standing and recite the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. The clerk will take the roll.
The clerk will close the roll. Quorum is present. The clerk will read the journal of the preceding day.
Journal of the House, 89th session, 83rd day, St. Paul, Minnesota, Friday, April 15th, 2016.
If there's no objection, further reading of the journal will be dispensed with, and the journal will be approved as corrected by the chief clerk. Hearing no objection, the journal is approved as corrected by the chief clerk. Reports of standing committees and divisions. A copy of this order of business has been placed on each member's desk. If there are no objections, the reports will be adopted. Hearing no objection, the reports are adopted. Second reading of Senate files.
Second reading, Senate File 1523.
Second reading. Do you want to do that now? Introduction of bills. The following House files have been offered for introduction today. The chief clerk will report the House files and give them their first reading.
Introduction and first reading of House Files 3939 through 3946.
First reading, House files 39 through 3946. I recognize the member from Sherburne, Representative Newberger. For what purpose do you rise?
I rise today, Mr. Speaker, for a point of personal privilege.
State your point of personal privilege.
Today, members, we have some very special guests with us on the Minnesota House of Representatives floor. All of us have been to the state fair at least once in our lives, and if you haven't, you should. Or you've been to one of the many county fairs all around the state. There's one very special family that has brought the Pronto pup to this state. And today I would like to read a resolution, a House resolution, recognizing this very special family. A House resolution recognizing the Pronto pup's significant role in the heritage and history of our great Minnesota State Fair. Whereas the Pronto pup had its debut at the State Fair in 1947, whereas the Pronto pup will have its 70th anniversary this summer at the 2016 Great Minnesota Get-Together, and whereas Pronto pup has served 25 million fairgoers since 1947. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Committee on Rules and Legislative Administration of the House of Representatives of the state of Minnesota that it recognizes the contribution that Pronto pup has made to the great Minnesota Get-Togethers cuisine and culture. Members, please welcome the Karnas family.
Calendar for the day. The first bill on the calendar for today is House File 2994. The clerk will report the bill.
House File 2994, number 2 on the calendar for the day, an act relating to workers' compensation.
I recognize the member from Scott, Representative Albright, to introduce the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, House File 2994 is the Workers' Compensation Reinsurance Association bill for this session. Just as a reminder, the WCRA coverage kicks in when a workers' compensation claim exceeds an employer's workers' compensation coverage limits. This happens in cases of catastrophic workplace injuries that result in severe lifelong damage such as paralysis, limb amputation, or brain injury, for example. Members, this bill does 2 changes to the existing WCRA governing statutes. First, the bill adds a new higher retention limit. The current retention limits are $500,000 and $1 million. The bill adds a $2 million limit. The reason for this change is that many Minnesota businesses have asked for this kind of product. They believe that the option of a higher retention limit in exchange for a lower premium is in their best interests. This higher retention limit is very common in other states, by the way. To be clear, this new higher limit will not, I repeat, not alter in any way either the timing or the amount of benefits due to an injured worker. This new limit is invisible to an injured worker who works for an employee who selects the new super retention limit. Secondly, the change decouples the amount of retention limit from an automatic inflator which has been in place since 1979. The current automatic inflator is outdated and tied to changes in wages. In 1979, lost wages comprised the vast majority of injured worker benefits. Today, it's medical costs that comprise that majority. Given that brevity is probably the strongest suit I play today, this bill has been properly vetted and unanimously approved by the WCRA board. It also holds the support of all the stakeholders from the work comp realm, as well as including the Minnesota Chamber, the AFL-CIO, and the Insurance Federation of Minnesota. We found no opposition to this bill in committee. It did travel a full vetting. And with that, members, I would encourage a green vote. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
There are no amendments at the desk. The clerk will give the bill its third reading.
Third reading, House File Number 2994.
Third reading. Discussion to the bill. The member from Ramsey, Representative Mahoney.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. As one of the other members of the Work Comp Advisory Board, this is a good bill. Vote for it.
Further discussion on House File 2994. Seeing no further discussion, the clerk will take the roll on the bill. The clerk will close the roll. There being 125 ayes and 0 nays, the bill is passed and its title agreed to. The next bill on the calendar for today is House File 3252. The clerk will report the bill.
House File Number 3252, number 4 on the calendar for the day, an act relating to commerce, the first engrossment.
I recognize the member from Sherburne, Representative Newberger, to introduce the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. House File 3252 is a way for us to reach out to men and women who have served their country. What this bill basically does, members, is it allows men and women who went into combat or into active duty to be able to retest for their real estate broker's licenses when they come back without having to go through the jump through all the hoops that they did the first time that they went through it. This bill will also require the Commerce Department not to charge any fees for them to do this. Members, this came to me from several veterans who were having problems. Some of them were suffering from post-traumatic stress. One of them had lost his farm and had almost lost his home when we were able to at least get everything put on hold and change the law so that these people could take extra time to recover from post-traumatic stress and then come back and get their lives back. This bill also is really good for the spouses of veterans, men and women who are married to those that are on active duty. If you have to leave the state to follow your spouse to another state because they've been stationed elsewhere, if you come back and your license has expired and you are not able to get it renewed, that this also would apply to you as well. And members, that's the bill. It's really good for veterans, and I hope it starts to set a precedent where we can help veterans, men and women who put themselves in harm's way and come back, that we can maybe in the future look at other licenses for them to be able just to retest, to take that test, pass that test, and then get back to the professions that they left in order to serve us. And with that, Mr. Speaker, that's the bill. Thank you.
There's an amendment at the desk. The clerk will report the amendment.
Newberger moved to amend House File Number 3252, the first engrossment, and the amendment is coded A16-1083.
I call upon the author of the amendment, Representative Newberger.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, what this amendment does is it tightens up the language from the original bill. This bill is supported by the Commerce Department, and it's supported by the real estate industry and, of course, by the veterans as well. I really wanted to make sure that we wouldn't have to come back here next year to fix any loose ends. We worked very, very long and hard on this bill to make sure that we've got all of our ducks in a row. What the amendment basically does is it makes sure that that veteran has an honorable discharge. That was not in the original language. And there was also a bit of a loophole in the original language that might have implied that they would have to pay to take their exams again. We don't want them to have to do that. And also, members, what this does, the amendment, is it helps with those pre-existing cases that are currently pending, that are being subject to some very severe penalties and fines by the Commerce Department. One veteran in particular had a bit of a problem, was trying to get this sorted out, and he was hit with a $60,000 fine from the Department of Commerce. That was his thanks for serving his country. So what this amendment will do is it will help to forego those fines and penalties to these people, again, that went and put themselves in harm's way for us.
Discussion to the amendment. Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Opposed, say nay. The motion prevails. The amendment is adopted. There being no further amendments at the desk, the clerk will give the bill its third reading.
Third reading, House File Number 3252, as amended.
Third reading. Discussion to the bill. Seeing none, the clerk will take the member from Anoka, Representative Newton.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This is a good bill, and I urge support.
Oops.
Discussion. The clerk will take the roll. The clerk will close the roll.
Did I hit it? No. We got a little mix-up.
There being 125 ayes and 0 nays, the bill is passed as amended and its title agreed to. Next bill on the calendar for the day is House File 3281. The clerk will report the bill.
House File Number 3281, number 5 on the calendar for the day, an act relating to lawful gambling.
I call upon the author from Anoka, Representative Sanders, to explain the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. Members, this bill is technical. It's not controversial, bipartisan. It adds raffle boards to the lawful gambling statutes related to taxes and criminal liability. This is a provision we passed last year and missed, and need to go back in and add raffle boards into these statutes. With that, members, I'd ask for your support. Thank you.
There are no amendments at the desk. The clerk will give the bill its third reading.
Third reading, House File Number 3281.
Third reading. Discussion to the bill. Seeing none, the clerk will take the roll. Representative Mariani votes aye. The clerk will close the roll. Isaacson votes aye. There being 126 ayes and 0 nays, the bill is passed and its title agreed to. The next bill on the calendar for the day is House File 3102. The clerk will report the bill.
House File Number 3102, number 3 on the calendar for the day, an act relating to lawful gambling, the first engrossment.
I call upon the author, Representative Swedzinski, who will explain the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This bill is before us for charitable gamblings across the state. The bill does a number of things, works on expanding the use of random number generators in the cases of raffles, expands for bingo games the limit from 200 to 500, allows gambling managers to be members, shortens the time period from 6 months to 90 days. This allows a lot of your local charities who have a tough time maybe getting folks to come and fill those positions, to help fill those positions a little sooner. That's pretty much what the bill does. The last section, which you may have heard about a little bit last year, dealt primarily with giving credit where credit is due, and that's asking for cities that do take that 10% cut of charitable revenues within their jurisdictions to simply give credit to the charitable organizations that generated that revenue, so that it's realized that where those dollars are coming from. So with that, I'd appreciate a green vote.
There being no amendments to the desk, the clerk will give a bill its third reading.
Third reading, House File Number 3102.
Discussion to the bill. Seeing none, the clerk will take the roll. The clerk will close the roll. There being 126 ayes and 0 nays,
the bill is passed as agreed. The bill is passed and its title agreed to.
Member from Hennepin, Representative Pepin.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that when the House adjourns today.
I think we need to move the calendar of the day to be continued. Oh, never mind. Okay. Representative Pepin, my apologies.
Mr. Speaker, I move that when the House adjourns today, it adjourns until 12:15, Wednesday, April 20th, 2016.
All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Opposed, say nay. Motion prevails. Announcements, members. Member from Benton, Representative O'Driscoll.
Mr. Speaker, are we doing motions and resolutions today? Referrals?
Motions and resolutions. Members, there are copies of the non-controversial motions at the House desk and online. If there's no objection, we'll take action on these motions first. Hearing no objections, the motions prevail.
O'Driscoll moves that House File Number 2991, now on the General Register, be re-referred to the Committee on Ways and Means.
Member from Stearns, Representative O'Driscoll.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, that is my motion. There was a fiscal note, a small one, that was associated with this once we got it out of Commerce, and we need to have the Ways and Means Committee take a look at it, so I appreciate your support.
Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Opposed, say nay. The motion prevails.
Hoppy moved that House File Number 3384, now on the General Register, be re-referred to the Committee on Ways and Means.
Call upon the member from Carver, Representative Hoppy.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker and members, this is the PBR bill, an insurance bill. We sent it to the House floor. It now has a rather large fiscal note, so we're going to send it to Ways and Means and get that straightened out and then send it back to the floor. I'd appreciate member support.
Discussion. Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Opposed, say nay. The motion prevails.
Creeshaw moved that the rules be so far suspended that House File Number 3305 be recalled from the Committee on Health and Human Services Finance, be given its second reading, and be placed on the General Register.
Call upon the member from Morrison, Representative Creeshaw, to your motion.
And thank you, Mr. Speaker. And members, when this committee heard this bill, the vote was to move it to the General Register for the second reading, but it was incorrectly reported to HHS Finance. So, because we're past deadlines, I need 90 votes to move this back to the General Register. And it's just a simple bill that would allow us to put fetal alcohol training into foster care. So, I would appreciate your support.
Discussion to the motion. The member from Hennepin, Representative Thiessen.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I support the motion to suspend the rules and move this to the General Register.
Discussion. Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Opposed, say nay. The motion prevails. The clerk will give the bill its second reading.
Second reading, House File Number 3305.
Second reading.
Slocum moved that the rules be so far suspended that House File Number 2625 be recalled from the Committee on Public Safety and Crime Prevention Policy and Finance, be given its second reading, and be placed on the General Register.
Call upon the member from Hennepin, Representative Slocum, to your motion.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This was a bill that was referred to Public Safety, Crime Prevention Policy, and Finance. It has zero for a fiscal note. It costs the state nothing. It costs my city of Richfield nothing. All it does is extend a residency distance law for my firefighters. I checked with Chair Cornish, and he's okay with it. I think it was sent to a finance committee kind of by mistake. So I'd like to move it to the General Register.
Discussion to the motion. Member from Hennepin, Representative Anderson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Representative Slocum, did you say that this was originally referred to State Gov Finance?
Member from Hennepin, Representative Slocum.
Mr. Speaker, Representative Anderson, no, that's the other bill that I had about the historical societies. So it's not this one.
Discussion. Member from Blue Earth, Representative Cornish.
Mr. Speaker and members, I talked to Representative Slocum, and this is a friendly motion. I'd appreciate a green vote.
Discussion. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Opposed, say nay. The motion prevails. The clerk will give the bill its second reading.
Second reading, House File Number 2625.
Second reading. Announcements, members. Announcements. Member from Stearns, Representative Knobloch.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, the Committee on Ways and Means will meet tomorrow evening at 7:30 p.m. new time to take up the higher education finance and education finance bills. And Republican members will be caucusing earlier at a time to be announced. Please watch your emails.
Announcements. Member from Ramsey, Representative Mahoney.
Oh, the night's going to be long. DFL members of the Jobs Committee will meet as a caucus in room 272 at 5 o'clock.
Member from Candy Ojai, Representative Baker.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I want to remind the Jobs and Energy Committee that we will be reconvening at 4:45 this evening. Is that correct, Mr. Speaker?
No. GOP members will be caucusing in room 400 South at 4:45. Thank you. Any announcements? Member from Hennepin, Representative Carlson.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, in light of the Ways and Means Committee meeting at 7:30, the DFL members will be meeting at 6:30, an hour before the meeting, and we'll let you know what room is available.
Member from Hennepin, Representative Hortman.
Mr. Speaker, members, I'm surprised that Representative Carlson didn't share this himself, but apparently he has a birthday today. You wouldn't know it because there's no cupcakes in the back. Happy birthday, Representative Carlson.
Any further
Mr.
announcements?
Speaker, point of privilege. I was just going to point out that this is my 44th birthday here on the House floor, with my birthday coming in April. But thank you very much.
Any further announcements? Member from Meeker, Representative Erdahl.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I was just wondering if perhaps Representative Carlson could reminisce about the last 70 or so years for us.
Member from Hennepin, Representative Kahn.
Well, Mr. Speaker, we really have to point out that Representative Carlson shares this with a very other important historic date, which was immortalized in poetry. It was the 18th of April, 75, and hardly a man is now alive who remembers the midnight ride of Paul Revere.
Announcements, members. Announcements. Member from Hennepin, Representative Carlson.
Mr. Speaker, would Representative Erdahl yield for a question?
He will. Representative
Representative
Carlson.
Erdahl, with your comment a few moments ago, are you planning on writing another history book?
Member from Meeker, Representative Erdahl.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Representative Carlson, yes, I am, and perhaps you and I could get together and collaborate.
Announcements. Member from Hennepin, Representative Pepin.
I move that the House do now adjourn.
Representative Pepin moves the House do now adjourn. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Opposed, say nay. The motion prevails, and the House stands adjourned until Wednesday, April 20th, 2016 at 12:15 p.m.